Welcome back to another disturbing journey in the southern underworld. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you to please like, comment, subscribe, and share this devilish delight with your horror friends and fam. Engagement is essential, and it helps our little channel grow. Stephen King's Pet Sematary explores the harsh truth of grief, loss, and the human desire to undo what cannot be undone. Both the original 1989 film and the 2019 remake bring this unnerving tale to life, each with its own unique flair. This video will delve into the psychological underpinnings of each movie, assess how they handle the source material, and explore their construction of a terrifying atmosphere. At the heart of Pet Sematary is the Creed family, who move to a small town in Maine and discover a mysterious graveyard behind their new home. This seemingly ordinary place has the power to bring back the dead, but at an appalling cost. When tragedy strikes, they come to realize that death might be less horrifying. The 1989 version of Pet Sematary, directed by Mary Lambert, remains a cult classic for its faithful adaptation of King's novel and its eerie ambience. The film portrays both the inevitable nature of death and the terrifying consequences of attempting to interfere with it. In 2019, Kevin Kulsh and Dennis Widmeyer presented a modern reinterpretation with improved visuals and significant plot changes. Their goal was to introduce this bone-chilling story to a new audience while providing unexpected twists and turns fans familiar with the original could enjoy. Both versions plunge into the deep psychological pit of grief, fear of loss, and the extreme measures one might take to avoid accepting death's finality. Grief plays a pivotal role in both films. It pushes characters toward irrational and dangerous decisions. The portrayal of grief in Pet Sematary is raw. It shows how losing someone close can push one toward drastic measures. In Lambert's 1989 version, Louis Creed's grief is palpable and shattering. His descent into madness appears unavoidable as his initial skepticism about the cemetery's powers gradually morphs into desperate hope before ultimately plummeting into horror. The 2019 remake delves further into the psychological dimensions of grief, focusing more on the emotional turmoil of Louis and Rachel Creed. It explores Rachel's past trauma and her fear of death, adding a layer to her character that was less pronounced in the original. Both films tap into the inherent fear of the unknown and unnatural. The cemetery, with its bizarre powers, represents the ultimate unknown, death's domain and what might exist beyond it. The original film uses traditional horror techniques, gothic elements, and atmospheric tension. The unknown is depicted through a sinister forest and an ancient burial ground draped in mystery and apprehension. The remake intensifies this fear with explicit visuals and a modern horror aesthetic. It presents the burial ground in more stark detail, underscoring its otherworldly nature. Pet Sematary examines human nature at its most fundamental level, how far one might go to undo an unchangeable loss. In both films, the characters are driven by desperation to use the burial ground, despite their understanding of its dreadful consequences. The original portrays this desperation as tragically inevitable. Louis' actions are fueled by profound loss and guilt, and I found his plunge into madness both relatable and horrifying. The remake effectively portrays the characters' desperation through a faster pace, mirroring their tumultuous emotions. Louis's actions become increasingly frantic to echo his escalating grief. Both films employ unique cinematic techniques to cultivate an ambience of fear and apprehension, each successful in its distinctive way. The original Pet Sematary uses traditional horror aesthetics, including dim lighting, shadowy figures, and a subdued color scheme to provoke discomfort. Its cinematography emphasizes the confining interiors of the Creed house and the oppressive forest and burial ground. The film's authenticity and horror allure are heightened by practical effects and the sparing use of CGI. In contrast, the remake leverages modern cinematographic methods for a sleeker, visually captivating style. Dynamic camera angles, stark contrasts, and enhanced special effects all contribute to a visually stimulating yet petrifying experience. Thanks to a substantial budget, the production was able to create elaborate set designs and seamlessly integrate CGI to enhance the supernatural elements of the story. The original film's sound design is understated but impactful, featuring a chilling score by Elliot Goldenthal that complements the movie's solemn tone. Ambient sounds like rustling leaves and distant animal noises contribute to an immersive atmosphere without overshadowing the storyline. On the other hand, The remake showcases more intense contemporary sound design with Christopher Young's score, merging classic horror themes with modern elements. Sudden jarring noises coupled with unnerving silence intensify dread levels. This pronounced sound design significantly amplifies the overall tension and drama of the film. Lambert's film adopts a slow burn strategy, allowing tension and horror to gradually build up over time. This pacing facilitates an in-depth examination of the characters' emotional journeys, making their eventual fate more shattering. The narrative structure closely aligns with King's novel, preserving key story elements and themes. Conversely, the remake favors a brisk pace reflecting today's preference for immediate scares and high-intensity sequences. Despite offering fresh plot twists that surprise viewers, this accelerated pace sometimes compromises character development for suspense or shock factor. Actors' performances in both versions contribute significantly to their psychological depth and emotional resonance. Dale Midkiff effectively portrays Louis Creed's slow descent into madness. His nuanced performance allows Louis's mental deterioration to unfold gradually, making his final choices more poignant. Jason Clarke delivers an emotionally charged portrayal of Louis Creed, emphasizing the character's internal struggle and mental breakdown. Clarke's ability to convey raw emotion and desperation adds an extra dimension to Louis, making his tumble into insanity feel more immediate. In the original, Denise Crosby embodies Rachel Creed as a resilient character wrestling with past traumas, while attempting to maintain normalcy amidst escalating terror. Her nuanced performance enhances the character's depth, making her final moments resonate deeply. Amy Seimetz presents Rachel Creed in the remake with amplified vulnerability and fear. She explores deeper into Rachel's psychological scars and death anxiety. Seimetz's knack for balancing strength and fragility adds complexity to Rachel, rendering her character development more emotionally stirring. Fred Gwynn's portrayal of Judd Crandall is a highlight of the original film. His acting skillfully balances affability and wisdom with an underlying sense of foreboding. Gwynn's relatable charm renders Judd a sympathetic yet doomed figure, haunted by guilt and premonition. John Lithgow offers a distinct interpretation of Judd Crandall's character in the remake. He gives a more somber and seasoned performance that reveals a man burdened by the secrets he carries. Lithgow's acting lends gravitas and melancholy to Judd, crafting him as a complexly layered character fraught with troubles. Both versions of Pet Sematary delve into the human struggle of facing sorrow, death, and our futile attempts to control the unpredictable. The use of symbolism in each film accentuates these themes, enriching the narrative. The core theme of Pet Sematary is the harsh truth of death and the consequences of attempting to defy it. Both movies employ the burial ground as a symbol of prohibited territory and unnatural cravings, a representation of humanity's impulse to reverse the irreversible. In the 1989 adaptation, the burial ground serves as a caution against interfering with natural laws. The revived beings emerge as distorted, evil counterparts of their previous selves, emphasizing that certain boundaries should remain untouched. The 2019 revision heightens this portrayal by emphasizing the destructive power of the burial ground and its capacity to corrupt. The resurrected beings are monstrous exaggerations depicting grotesque results when one attempts to outwit death. This depiction adds a raw touch to the theme of inevitability. Both adaptations also explore how trauma affects characters like Rachel's childhood memories and Louis's sorrow following his son's demise. In the initial film, Rachel's trauma is subtly suggested through flashbacks and her dread of death. Her sister Zelda's representation adds a terrifying aspect to her recollections, highlighting trauma's enduring impact. The remake delves further into Rachel's psychological scars, providing more context and depth to her anxieties. Zelda is depicted even more horrifically in this version, mirroring Rachel's unresolved guilt and trauma. This emphasis magnifies the emotional weight of Rachel's character progression. The perversion of innocence is another significant theme in both films, demonstrated through the Creed children's tragic destinies. In the 1989 version, Gage's resurrection epitomizes innocence corrupted at its zenith. His transformation from an innocent child into an evil being underlines defying death's horror. The remake shifts focus, concentrating on Ellie's resurrection instead of Gage's. This shift allows for a more nuanced exploration of lost innocence. Ellie's transformation and its psychological impact on her family highlight the disastrous consequences of tampering with nature's sequence. Both versions of Pet Sematary offer unique interpretations of Stephen King's eerie tale, delving into grief, loss, and human endeavors to control the uncontrollable. The original film, with its gradual pace and gothic atmosphere, has become a cult classic that encapsulates the story's tragic inevitability. The remake offers a contemporary perspective on the narrative for today's audience, intensely focusing on psychological elements. Both films effectively showcase Pet Sematary's central themes, using varied cinematic tools and performances to craft an ambience of unyielding dread. Whether one prefers the timeless horror of the 1989 version or the contemporary intensity of the 2019 revision, both adaptations offer a chilling examination of humanity's darker facets and the horrifying aftermath of defying death. Pet Sematary remains a powerful narrative that continues to resonate with viewers, reminding us that sometimes dead is indeed better. Pet Sematary is an amazing read, and both movies are gems of equal facets. I highly recommend both versions. The original is a fantasy horror mystery that is 1 hour and 43 minutes long. It is rated R. The remake is a horror mystery thriller that is 1 hour and 40 minutes. It is also rated R. The Southern Underworld gives both versions 5 bloody knives. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time. Thank you for watching.